Good morning. My name is Wanda Minnings. I'm the chair of the Corporate Services Committee. It's 9 a.m. and I would like to call today's meeting to order. Agenda item B, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? No, seeing none, we'll go to agenda item C. There are no delegations, so we're moving on to agenda item D. So we have the consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull an item from the consent agenda? Member Cox?
Yes, I'd like to pull D 2.1, please.
Thank you. Anyone else? No. Okay, thank you. Agenda item E. Madam Clerk, can we move to adopt the agenda, please?
Certainly. The motion reads that the agenda be adopted, including consent items, with the exception of item D 2.1.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Moved by Member Taylor, seconded by Member Brennan. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Agenda item F, reports from officials for directions. Agenda item F 1.1, admin report, economic development strategy, the presentation of the draft strategy. Over to Tracy Roxborough and Jason Kipfer, please.
Thank you, Chair. So today we have Jason Kipfer here from Explorer Solutions, who has been leading the development of the economic development strategy for the township. So just a reminder, this project started in May 2023. We went through a series of different phases, the first being data analysis and market research. The second, stakeholder engagement, including sessions with council, the community, online survey to gather insights and feedback from those audiences. And then the third was to develop the draft strategy, and that has been brought to you here today for your review. So I'll just pass it over to Jason to start the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. And good morning, Chair Minnings. Good morning, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council, and senior staff that are present today, and those joining us remotely. Thank you for this opportunity. Explorer Solutions is very excited to have this opportunity to present our final draft for approval to the committee and council this morning. And we're very pleased to walk you through the highlights from the economic development strategy. And Tracy, thank you for setting the stage and some context about how we got to where we are today. Allison. So the brief agenda for today's discussion is really just to highlight the purpose again of the project, the process that we undertook over the last several months, to share with you the vision statement for economic development, highlight the priorities, the economic development priorities, their associated objectives and the benefits to the township. And then we'll talk about next steps as we work towards the final version of the economic development strategy. Allison. So the purpose of the economic development strategy is to support Severn's strategic plan and provide guidance to enhancing community well-being, to preparing for stable community growth, to helping promote economic prosperity in the township, and creating a resilient and sustainable local economy. Allison. The recommendations in the economic development strategy I want to emphasize were significantly led by and attributed to the significant public engagement process that we held throughout the township. We started the project off with extensive background research. We had site visits throughout the township. We undertook statistical analysis. We analyzed market trends, and we held a significant and very successful community and stakeholder engagement process. Allison. This community and stakeholder engagement process entailed 4 community focus groups, which brought together 28 representatives from different businesses and organizations throughout and surrounding the township. We had a very successful online survey with 233 completed survey responses from residents and local area businesses and other economic leaders within the community. We had 2 very successful workshops with members of council and senior staff. And we had 25 one-on-one interviews with, again, key economic leaders and individuals within the community to provide the insight and guidance to help inform and guide the direction of the economic development strategy. Allison, thank you. So as we put and developed the draft strategy, we needed that guiding vision. And with the support of council and senior staff and the community at large, we found that the following vision statement for economic development made best sense for the community. That is that Severn strives for economic growth and development activities that balance fiscal and environmental responsibility to ensure a sustainable future. This economic development vision is supported by 5 economic development priorities. Those priorities are focused on increasing support of local businesses, balancing tax base to support a diverse community, enhancing and promoting local tourism, matching lifestyle amenities with residential growth, and safeguarding community interest in relation to the aggregate industry. To summarize, the first strategic priority that focuses on increasing support of local business, for today's discussion, I'd like to highlight the 3 objectives. Each of the objectives are detailed with a series of actions within the draft plan, and we have a number of plan outcomes within the draft plan, but for today's discussion, I wanted to highlight those as benefits back to the township. The 3 objectives focus on approving the economic development strategy so the township can move forward with hiring an economic development officer, and this individual will be tasked with implementing the outcomes and the recommendations of the economic development strategy. Additionally, the EDO, or the Economic Development Officer, will establish an Economic Development Advisory Committee. And this committee is designed to provide insights and intel and information back to council, back to senior staff, and to help meet the agenda of the economic development strategy. And thirdly, the objective within this priority is to establish a business stewardship program and outreach plan. And what this entails is establishing a business directory and outreach strategy for that EDO to connect with the businesses within your community. A business directory helps make it easier for local businesses to be found and contacted within the community. And the business stewardship program supports business retention and attraction and growth, but particularly business retention and expansion. Next slide, please. The second priority of balancing the tax base to support a diverse community is comprised of 2 objectives. The first objective is focus on encouraging economic development. And this really narrows down to ensuring that marketing materials for the township remain current. And this allows the township to better compete for business investment attraction. And this also allows the township to provide its various partners with up-to-date and relevant information for cross-promotion. The second objective is to update the zoning and land use policies to make it easier to set up and maintain businesses. The two actions within this focus on streamlining the permitting process and also updating bylaws to support home-based businesses, permitted uses, and a variety of housing types. The benefits back to the township lead to increased business registrations, additional building uses and housing options, and increased density and variety of uses in designated settlement areas. The third economic development priority focuses on enhancing and promoting local tourism. The first objective focuses on marketing Severn as a major cultural and tourism destination. The actions include ensuring that the township has the right asset inventory of its arts and cultural assets, about keeping the township's channel partners informed of these changes and additions to new assets within the inventory, and expanding the existing calendar events that's online on your website to include a complete tourism and cultural offering. The outcome and benefit to the community is that this increased promotion and awareness, it helps to inform residents and visitors about the opportunities and the activities that exist within the township. The second objective is to ensure that Severn has the services and amenities needed to attract and support cultural events and festivities. This entails establishing a working group under the Cultural and Recreational Advisory Committee that contributes ideas, liaises with event organizers, and provides guidance back to that Cultural and Recreational Advisory Committee. And also to promote the availability of assets, cultural assets, and to more cultural and arts assets for artists to create, to rehearse, and to showcase their work within the township. And again, all of this leads to greater programming, which also leads to more tourism visits and more resident satisfaction within the community. The third, on the next page, the third objective within the strategic priority is to expand Severn's arts and cultural scene. So this is about allocating budget from the township to support cultural initiatives throughout the year, and also to assess the feasibility of investing in outdoor spaces for performance and cultural events. This all contributes to showcasing and demonstrating Severn's commitment to the arts and community enrichment within the community. And an increased arts and cultural offering is the outcome of additional outdoor spaces for artists and other types of cultural events. The last objective within this priority is to work with housing developers to incorporate lifestyle amenities into design plans. There's a number of actions that focus on encouraging the developers to consider lifestyle amenities into their project developments, their subdivision developments. Also for the township to establish a parkland dedication bylaw in the township's new official plan, and to work with developers to establish maintenance plans for shared amenities. The benefits to the community entail an increased number of lifestyle amenities, parks, and recreational spaces, which enhances the quality of life for Severn residents of all ages. And secondly, maintenance plans of privately owned public spaces within Severn allow the township to invest tax revenues into other township-wide priorities. I'll say this is the last objective. I apologize. The last objective within this priority is to develop an outreach strategy and marketing campaign to educate and promote Severn as a lifestyle community. We have a number of strategic actions within this to support this objective, and it's focused on creating engaging content that showcases those great amenities and events in the township's community spirit. Also, to collaborate with partners, both direct partners and indirect partners, to promote those lifestyle amenities within the community, encourage businesses to work with those lifestyle amenities to partner, provide incentives or promotions to encourage a win-win situation for both and increase utilization, establishing an ambassador program. There's a lot of great people within the community that love to talk very highly and brag about the great things that exist within the community, and gather insights from residents and visitors to make sure that we have the right amenities and overcome any obstacles that need to be addressed. The benefits back to the township with this objective allow for increased resident satisfaction, engagement, and tourism visits resulting from new marketing materials and more collaboration with partners and ambassadors, increased utilization of lifestyle amenities and support towards local businesses, and residents and tourists benefit from new programming while maximizing the potential of local amenities. The last strategic priority has three objectives. It is the priority of safeguarding community interest in relation to the aggregate industry. The first objective focuses on optimizing zoning and planning regulations to promote environmental protection and sustainable aggregate operations. And the role that we see the township playing here is really about liaising between the aggregate industry and the township in the spirit of encouraging residents to participate when the opportunities to come up to provide feedback and comment. And the benefit to the community is that this awareness of the opportunity to participate increases resident engagement and ensures that the voices of all Severn residents are heard. The second objective is to maintain a haul route network to safeguard residents and visitors. Again, this is an opportunity for the township to ensure public feedback opportunities are available when the opportunities to come up. And the benefits to the township is that the township continues to play a liaison role between the residents and the aggregate industry and increase public awareness and safety about the importance of designated haul routes throughout the township. And the third objective is to install prominent signage along major highways and exit ramps to help truck drivers navigate. The actions focus on collaborating with provincial agencies to ensure signage remains clear and visible and also follows design standards, and also to educate residents about the purpose of signage and the importance of adhering to designated haul routes. The benefits back to the township should lead to a reduction in trucks deviating from designated haul routes, contributing to effective traffic flow management, and this contributes to maintaining positive community relations between Severn residents and the aggregate industry. So as we think about the priorities within the economic development strategy and kind of benefits back to the community or kind of a return on investment, so to speak, our team has put together a series of 5 categories or themes that we've attributed a number of benefits back to various pillars or activities, categories rather, within the economic development strategy. I won't go through them all in detail, but they focus on business benefits back to the local businesses, benefits that support your labor force, municipal benefits, benefits that support the local economy, and other benefits that support the tourism industry. And those are detailed within the strategy and additional supporting material we're providing following the final strategy. And the next steps. So today I'm presenting our final draft to the Corporate Services Committee. We are looking and seeking approval on the draft plan so that we can finalize the final strategy and resubmit for approval by Severn Council and implementation as well too. Thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to any questions you may have regarding the draft final plan.
Thank you so much, Jason. Member Brennan.
Thank you. I want to compliment you on this product. I think we really have been listened to through this process, and you've acknowledged that in a very professional way. I think this is a good threshold document for Severn Township, and I'd be proud to be part of implementing it. I have just one question that I'm not clear on.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see communications, the connection between the advisory committee and the working group under the recreation committee? But how would that work in your mind?
We see as they communicate and inform council or through the EDO, the Economic Development Officer. Just looking for a little bit more clarity from you about what you're seeking on the communication side.
Well, it's just my perception would be that there would be some good recommendations from the working group.
Yep.
The question is, how do you filter that through to the advisory group to add value to its input as well?
Sure. I'll say for the Economic Development Advisory Committee, because this is spearheaded by the EDO, that individual would be responsible for filtering and providing briefings back to council and senior staff department heads. On the working group under the Recreational Cultural Committee, the committee would nominate a chair for that committee. I would recommend from past experience that the EDO plays a role on that committee. The committee and senior staff can determine to what degree that EDO plays a role. So it's more of a liaison role. There needs to be at least a staff representative, in my opinion, on that committee. And the staff representative does not, and probably, in my opinion, should not be the chair of the committee. I think it should be led by someone who comes from the arts and cultural community or industry who has probably more of a 30,000-foot perspective of the industry. But we need that staff liaison in order to report back to council.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Burkett.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair, to Jason. Thank you very much for all your work. And I forget your colleague's name, but if you could convey my thanks to her as well. The report was very well written, enjoyed reading it. I am fully supportive of the EDO. I'm hoping the other members of council are as well. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm not sure, and I can't foresee what today, but the right person, they and what they can bring forward to council. We've never had anyone in Severn that had the ability to do what your report is outlining. And I want to convey my thanks to Tracy, because I think Tracy had a hand in a lot of this. And Tracy, thank you very much for all your hard work. When I was first elected, we didn't have a communications person. I found myself running from staff person to staff person, trying to write speeches or figuring out where we needed to go. And I know when we first hired Lynn, when Laurie came aboard, Lynn was a godsend. And now we have Tracy, who's a godsend. And I'm looking at what an EDO can do for this township as we grow. And we're growing in leaps and bounds, and we need to provide that service for our residents. But this EDO, I see I have to use the word they, as Allison has cautioned me, a realm of things that I can't even begin to imagine what they could do. But I'm so excited to move forward with this, and I just wanted to convey my thanks to everyone that was involved.
Mayor Burkett, thank you very much for that. And Gen Life, I certainly enjoyed the whole process, as did I. And as you mentioned, the community is growing by leaps and bounds. And we strongly feel on our side at Explorer Solutions, the time is right to invest in a dedicated economic development officer to take the reins and help move the community from good to great and be able to champion economic development within the community and help be a face of the community to not only the businesses within the community, but the prospective businesses that are snooping around looking for opportunities in this part of Ontario.
Thank you.
Member Cox.
Well, I echo the mayor's words and yours, Jason. And I have to tell you that this report was very clear. It's in layman terms. It's very understandable. There's not a bunch of pie charts and numbers. It's here, and it tells us what we need to do and where we need to go. And we're ready for that, as you said. And we really need this because all our surrounding municipalities have EDOs. And I'll be honest, I wasn't sure on this halfway through. And this has made me more sure because there's measurable, attainable goals. And there are so many things that this person can do when they come on board to help us. So it's a wonderful report. But I do have one thing, and I should have asked before, I'm sorry. The parkland dedication bylaw, I thought we had something. Is this different? Like, I know that when we looked, I looked to Mr. Burke, I know that when we were in recreation, we had the opportunity to choose between getting money now and taking land. And we all know, no offense for anybody who's watching, they usually give you the dumpiest old piece of land for a park. So we tried to keep a piece of property in that one that we just had. So if someone could just clarify this to make it, is it something we have to add to our existing, or what is it? Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll take that one. I know the director of planning and the director of finance are probably watching. So if I don't get it right, they'll pop up and correct me. But the legislation has changed a bit and we don't have exactly what we need. And I think we're working on it as part of our new DC study.
Thank you very much.
They'll tell me, but I know there is a change needed.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And on page 19, sorry, at the very bottom, the last paragraph, it says, Severn can encourage businesses in its downtown core. I think it should say cores.
Okay, noted.
No offense.
No, that's quite all right. I think that was a typo. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much again. And Tracy, I've already told you, thank you so much for helping make this a Made in Severn one, not just another one that goes along that everybody, that people will pick this up and read it. And the other thing I really wanted to bring forward was the fact that you really listened to the focus groups. And you wrote their concerns, and we found maybe some ways to help them. And with the EDO on board, I think it can help businesses because unfortunately right now, businesses are suffering. All businesses are. And if anything, they can really use our help. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, we appreciated your enthusiasm and participation throughout the process. It was important to us to create a product that was easily readable and understandable by those that are certainly involved in municipal planning, economic development, but also for the residents and the businesses within the community. And I hope that we've achieved that. I'm feeling as though we have from some of the comments this morning.
Well, thank you very much. And I just have to say that my bucket list is getting better. We have a director of recreation. We got the EDO, economic development, and we got the master recreation plan. So the things I've been waiting a long time for, they're all rolling in, and it's very nice to see for the future of Severn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I also have one question. I did really like the document. Thank you for presenting it and taking all of the feedback and rolling it together. I did have a couple questions. Some were already asked, so I won't do those. But further to the establishing a working group under the Culture and Recreation Advisory Committee, which was slide 10, because I had that question, it came up from other members. Is there an opportunity to just expand on that in the deck? Because my fear is that we'll take that deck off a shelf, you know, in 6 months or a year from now and be asking the same questions again. And then the other is on the parkland dedication bylaw, which I also had a question. If just a little more context behind the, you know, the thoughts around moving that forward.
Okay, no, thank you, Chair. For the working group under the Cultural Advisory Committee, with the focus group that we had and brought in individuals and representatives from various arts and cultural organizations, both within the township and on the outskirts of the townships, and others that were artists and those that were just passionate about the arts and cultural community. There was a lot of discussion around how to champion this, how to get it off the ground, how to do it feasible, and how to do it kind of in an inclusive approach. And so from all of the comments that we heard and tried to make sense of what was the best path forward, this is a 5-year strategy, and things will continue to evolve and be re-involved and reinvented throughout those next 5 years. And I feel, my team feels that for this particular time, to get things off the ground in an economical, efficient, and effective manner, a committee, a working group. I know that when we speak to all the people in the room and we say, let's all join one more committee, I know we get a lot of eye rolling, but I think that with the spirit of this particular committee and bringing in some of those power players and influencers in the arts and cultural sector within and around the township, there was a lot of enthusiasm and passion about building and establishing a not just an emerging arts and cultural scene within the community here, but taking it to something substantial, and that becomes known within this part of the province. So we have established a workbook for the future EDO to help follow a plan with not just the objective and some actions, but we have some rationale and additional detailed actions that will help to support establishing this committee, the EDAC committee, and other recommendations as well too. So we're not just pointing you in the right direction and saying, you know, off on your way. We want to hold your hand. We want to get you to first base. We want to make sure that you're set up for success. And we have created some additional tools behind the scene for staff that we feel will support them in those endeavors. The second question related to the parkland bylaw, please go ahead. Was there further clarification around the parkland dedication bylaw comment?
No, I just was hoping that you could capture it in the material that's part of the final document.
Okay, thank you. And I'll liaise with the Director of Planning, Lori and Tracy on that as well too, as we move towards the final version.
Thank you. And if there are no further questions before I ask the clerk for a motion. Oh, and there is one more. Okay, Member Brennan.
Thank you. Just want to follow. I just like to just be careful with details on the working group. My sense would be that should come from a staff report because of the evolution of the document. We may want to change. I would be a little worried that we mess up a good document with too much detail at this point in time. So I just put that forward. I can fully appreciate the comment, but to me, that kind of detail can come back to council for ratification through a staff report. And on the, what was the second issue? That was the parkland dedication goes without saying that will require a staff report.
Councillor Brennan, I concur with your comments about the working group. I feel that it is a little premature. I'll say the cart before the horse in terms of putting a direction in place for the working group committee for arts and culture. I feel that with the right people around the table, a dedicated or appointed chairperson for that committee as well, they will know what's happening today and what are the industry trends around the arts and cultural industry. And I think they're better positioned once those like-minded individuals are together to chart a path forward and put that through a recommendation back to council through a staff report.
Okay, thank you. So before we ask the clerk for a motion, I'm wondering if this is something you can capture for further or if I need to put it through separately. And as we were talking and the presentation came in and talked about the events, the cultural aspect, the different communities, if we could tie it into the existing grants that we have somehow, because I see opportunities to either create a new grant that's specific to some kind of an economic development outcome, or a youth business startup, for example, et cetera, et cetera. So in light of having an economic development strategy and a vision, I'm wondering if that's something that we could capture in the future when we're looking at our grants. Just a question.
Might I suggest that it is something that a particular member would like to proceed with, or at least bring forward for further discussion, that you just bring forward a council report to a future meeting to lay out what your thoughts are on the matter, and then it can be part of some separate discussion at a future meeting, not necessarily tied to the plan because grants are a separate thing. And then we can just put it on a future agenda and have that discussion then.
Okay, Member Cox.
Yeah, I'd like that because we had talked about how we'd like to just take a relook at our grant program. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So over to you, Madam Clerk, for a motion, please.
Motion reads that report A24-012 dated March 27th, 2024 regarding the draft economic development strategy be received, and that the Corporate Services Committee approves the economic development strategy as presented as the final economic development strategy, and the staff be directed to recruit an economic development officer to begin the implementation of the economic development strategy.
Thank you. Do I have a mover? Member Cox, seconded by Member Burkett. All in favor? And it's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Kipfer.
Thank you again for the opportunity.
Tracy, thank you. Okay, moving on to F 2.1 Public Works Report 2024 Road Resurfacing Program. Mr. Burke.
Thank you, through the chair. So this report highlights the results of a bidding process that resulted in a over budget condition. There's a number of roads listed in here, and the overall project overage would be at $250,000. I want to recognize that this is some pretty good bidding practice, that there was a few, I would say, missed scope during budget. However, this is a really good bid price, a reasonable approach to the project, and will result in good infrastructure. So I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Member Cox.
Through the chair to Derek, I have no problem with the 250. These roads need to be fixed, and we did save some money on some other roads, so it's always good. Anyway, yes, I think this is wonderful. These are our roads that we've had many complaints, and they are in bad shape. So if we can get them fixed, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
Member Burkett.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I echo the comments of Member Cox, but also remind Council the amount of money that we saved on both Brody and Carleon. And yes, these roads are well overdue. And as we know, costs just keep going up every year. The 250,000, yes, is a hit, but again, I go back to the amount of money, and I think it was, I don't know the exact figure, but I think it was well over $1 million that we saved on the other two roads. Thank you. And thank you, Derek, for the report.
Thank you. Member Brennan.
Yes, through the chair to Derek, the closeness of the 6 legitimate bids tells it all as far as I'm concerned. You've been through, you have the market price. Our residents are getting good value at this price, and I fully support it.
Thank you. Over to Madam Clerk for a motion, please.
Motion reads that Public Works Report number W 24-006 dated March 27th, 2024, with respect to the 2024 road resurfacing program be received. And further, that the bid received by Georgian Paving Limited in the amount of $1,399,855.40 excluding HST be accepted. And further, that the additional $250,000 required to complete the work be approved. And further, that the deficiency be funded from the capital reserve.
Thank you. May I have a mover? Moved by member Taylor, seconded by member Brennan. All in favor? And carried. Thank you. There we go. Moving on. F 2.3, Public Works Report and Engineering Standards Update over to, I'm sorry, I advanced my screen. F 2.2, Public Works Report, West Shore Wastewater Treatment Plant Process Review, over to Derek Burke.
Thank you very much. And through the chair. So this report highlights a project that we commenced in 2023 to look at a potential hydraulic bottleneck within the West Shore Wastewater Treatment Plant. And what we understood from actually a number of years ago, approximately 2014 was the original report, identified that the equalizer pump between the two cells of SBRs heading into the sludge storage area was undersized. That was the hydraulic bottleneck. During the project, we retained Ainley and Associates as consulting engineer. They did some process review to identify the upgrades required and identified that there may be additional bottlenecks within the system and some operational opportunities for improvement within the entire system. So we've asked them to relook at a proposal for doing a process review throughout the entire plant to better understand where our hydraulic bottlenecks may be, where there's opportunities to potentially re-rate that plant, which may result in the reduction of overall average daily flow capability of treatment, but it may also sustain the current rated. But nonetheless, we need the details of the process review to better understand how that plant operates and what it is capable of achieving.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments, Member Taylor?
Yes, through the chair to Derek. So it scares me, the last paragraph of your analysis there. So are you saying that that could impede future growth in West Shore? And is the solution more infrastructure, or that's what Ames is going to tell us?
So through the chair, precisely, that's the paragraph is in there to recognize that if the plant can't meet its approved rated average daily flow and peak demand flow, that there would need to be a derating of the plan or significant upgrades to the infrastructure to support growth. Right now, our trend is saying that we are the better part of 60% consumed, and we have a number of large applications in the area for development. So we want to get ahead of that and understand the true capacity of the plant, and then also look at the process review to identify any opportunities for enhanced capacity and how we would go about that. Just a reminder, there is a scheduled planned EA for expansion that was carried forward following the master plan study. So we are on the heels of expansion nonetheless, but we do need to understand that the current capacity of the plant.
Yeah, just to follow up through the chair. So everything that's been agreed to is committed, is okay. You're saying it's down the road. That's in question.
Through the chair, yes, I understand that.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Can we have a motion, please?
Certainly. The motion reads that Public Works Report number W 24-007 dated March 27th, 2024, with respect to the West Shore Wastewater Treatment Facility process review be received, and further that the additional work proposed by Ainley and Associates in the amount of $45,824 exclusive of HST be accepted.
Thank you. Moved by Member Brennan, seconded by Member Taylor. All in favor? And carried. Thank you. Okay, now we'll go on to F 2.3, Public Works Report, Engineering Standards Update. Welcome, Alex Vieira and Derek.
Thank you. And through the chair, I'll start this one with a bit of background. We retained Ainley and Associates as our committed full-time peer review for development files approximately 2022. And in in that process, there was an identified project to update the standards from 2014. So, the standards served us well for approximately 20 years and required some updates to make sure that industry practice and some benefits overall to our infrastructure are embedded in the standards. So Alex Vera, our public works technician, executed the job alongside Ainley and has a better knowledge of them than myself, probably. So I'll pass it over to him to try to describe some of the base highlights of the engineering standards update.
For the chair, good morning. So one of the big updates was kind of breaking all the different sections of the standards into individual sections, whereas in the past we had one large document. So through doing this, it gave us the opportunity to complete current township branding, to add in that all the documents are now AODA compliant. We were able to remove any inconsistencies between the sections, as well as with it being in individual sections now, you kind of have a better grasp on it's more user friendly and sections to go to specifically what you're looking for. So some of the so again, we made many updates to the different sections of the standards, but some of the more notable ones include so for the engineering drawings, reports, and submission requirements section, we've now included some things like some expectations for first, second, and third submissions. We note that in the past, we often were going through a site plan or subdivision files that they're not necessarily complete submissions. So we're hoping that some of these expectations will allow developers and designers to, on those submissions, have everything compliant with what we're asking for. To our landscaping section, we added the requirements to use native pollinating plants to be compliant with Bee City requirements, as well as some design requirements to incorporate native tree species. And then another big one was planting locations. So this was just to allow for things like easier maintenance. So we put in some things like 2-meter setbacks for plantings of trees to any property lines, 3 meters to fire hydrants, and 2 meters to driveways. Our roadway section saw quite a bit of updates. A big one being that we got 7 new standard cross sections for roadways, where in the past we only had 2. So some of these cross sections include a semi-urban and local residential roadway for a 20-meter road allowance. We did develop a 15-meter road allowance for any work that may occur in Coldwater with some of the existing 15-meter road allowances there, as well as we created some new 26-meter road allowances for things like rural arterial roadways, and also some options for active transportation. Another change came with driveways. We just noticed that with some towns and some of the new subdivisions that there's been some conflict with shared driveways. So that is now something that we allow with the addition of a driveway delineator. And along with that, we've also developed a new standard detail of what that delineator will look like for developers to use. As well as for streetlights, we've now spec'd a lifespan expectancy, as well as for the luminaires to be dark sky compliant. Within our sanitary section, we've now established, in the past, we just had a standard rating of 2.7 people per unit for all dwelling types. And we've now broke that out into different values for different different homes, whether it be a townhome or an apartment or a residential building. In our water main section, so we have now made it that all fire hydrants must be yellow. In the past, there was in our old standards, there would be different colors of hydrants for different areas of the township. So we thought it just made more sense to keep it consistent, and the bonnet caps will be painted based on fire flow. Another challenge we sometimes faced with some new development was water servicing for towns or multi-unit buildings. So we've now made the requirement that multi-unit buildings will only receive 1 service and 1 water meter for ease of use by the township, and then any sub-metering will be the responsibility of the property owner. Within our stormwater management section, we have clearly defined what sufficient outlet means. Sometimes in the past through development applications, that's a big back and forth we end up having with developers. So we've now defined what is required for their outlet. And there's now more focus on water balance. So essentially trying to keep any stormwater generated on a site rather than moving to end of pipe controls like a stormwater pond. And finally, for the detailed drawing section, there's been quite a few new details that have been made, as well as the existing ones updated. Some of the new ones include we created a urban community mailbox lay-by detail for some of the new development we've been seeing. There's been the addition of parkland related details, which include some things like wooden privacy fencing and chain link security fencing, as well as some new details relating to utilities, which include streetlight drawings and some joint utility trenches. That concludes my report, so I'll open it up to any questions.
Thank you very much, Alex. Member Cox?
Yeah, through the chair. Thank you, Alex. Could you, because I got an example given to me, could you give an example about what driveway pairing means so everybody understands? Because I thought it was kind of a neat thing.
Yeah, so with a lot of the, for example, in Turnbull, we saw quite a few townhomes that come up, and a lot of the driveways are paired, meaning they're kind of right on the property line. So we just kind of noted that with some other municipalities, there's some challenges of, let's say one neighbor wants to redo their driveway in interlock stone and the other neighbor doesn't. Any discrepancies that have come up are hopefully eliminated with a delineator now. You know, this half of it belongs to this owner and this half belongs to the other. And it's just a standard concrete 600 mil wide delineator between the driveways. Again, just to provide separation, so when two new people get the house, essentially, you know, for sure this is my half, this is my requirement to maintain, and so that was the main purpose of that there.
Okay, and supplemental. I'm not sure who this goes to. Are we doing larger culverts now because of the fact that we used to call it 100-year storm, and now we're noting that our storms are, with the climate change, much bigger? Like maybe Derek, like, is there something to that we are doing? Because I know that I read about different times at different municipalities, you know, where roads have given away and everything floods.
So through the chair, there's in the standards, there isn't a provision specifically like that, but what it does is it refers back to our environmental compliance approval. In last year, in March 2023, we were issued a consolidated linear ECA from the ministry for all of our storm system. And what it did is it then applied a new development standard for the setting of storms in our area and what are the appropriate sizes for culverts and drainage structures, ponds, quality control as well. So not just quantity control, but quality control of the stormwater runoff. And that then is embedded into the development standards. So in short, yes, the climate change, the effect of climate change, and the betterment or enhancement of protecting the environment from sediment runoff and that sort of thing is now integral into our standards.
So, and just one more, please. Where it says about the detailed drawing sections, where it's drawing templates relating to lot grading for various residential building types. We already had that. Is this just a clear function to ensure that it's done and the neighbors are not affected?
Oh yeah, we had some of them. So now there's some different examples. So I think one of the big examples was like a walkout basement versus a non-walkout basement. So there's details for that, what lot grading should look like for the different types of lots. And then any existing ones, yeah, we're kind of updated. Just some of the drawings were updated just for titles and cleaning up some line work and stuff, just to make them a little more user friendly. But yeah, some of the new ones that I remember off the top of my head were, again, related to different views of if it were a walkout type yard or if it were just like a more of a flat yard.
Yeah, I was just wondering because I do know that there's a lot of talk about flow from somebody's property going onto someone else's property, and you know, pavement versus grass, and Toronto having a thing about paying more if your house lot's bigger because you're putting more water on the storm sewer system. So anyway, we aren't doing that. But anyway, yes, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I have one question. I'm really happy with the outcome of your work, and thank you for that. I think creating 10 new sections is going to make it much easier to navigate also from a user perspective. So my question is to that. And how are these changes going to be communicated as far as the website and search engines, et cetera? Because I do get a lot of feedback about having to find things using the search box on the website, that it does do its job, but it pulls up information that's often embedded and rather than standalone. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Chair. So I think moving forward, what we can do is ensure that when we're updating the pages where this information is contained, we can update the page tags and the SEO to ensure that when people are looking for these sections that, or I guess the standards as a full document, they're directed directly to that versus maybe to other pages that may have just information about it, such as a news release or something. In terms of the embedded content, that's something that Derek and I can work on, but generally the style and formatting of our website, the way that we actually put documents on is it's not necessarily embedded, but it's a file that is saved within our content management system that can be accessed by the user by clicking on that link. But there's other ways to do that, potentially looking at breaking out some of the sections into accordions or something else that's maybe easier for the viewer to look at. So moving forward, Derek and I can look at that to see what maybe the best approach is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Over to Madam Clerk for a motion, please.
The motion reads that Public Works Report number W24-009 dated March 27th, 2024 with respect to the engineering standards update be received, and further that the draft engineering standards be adopted for use to replace the 2024 engineering standards.
Thank you. Looking for a mover. Member Cox, seconded by Member Brennan. All in favor? And carried. Thank you. Item F 2.4, Public Works Report, Pride Crosswalk. Over to Derek and Alex, please.
Through the chair. So we received some correspondence last June from some community members just to inquire about the implementation of a pride crosswalk in front of the Severn Shores Public School. So staff looked into some different aspects of this project, which included some things like conformance with Ontario traffic manuals, the different styles of pride crosswalks typically implemented in Ontario, the use of traditional solvent-based road paint versus some durable pavement markings, as well as any maintenance considerations. So to begin, communications staff Tracy was able to consult with the Simcoe County District School Board, as well as the Fierté Simcoe Pride Group to evaluate the request and to gauge any support from these groups. Both groups have expressed support in the project, and on this point, we note that again there are two main styles of pride crosswalks typically used. One of them being more your traditional crosswalk with the ladder bars that are each of the bars would be painted the representative pride colors, or a crosswalk which is referred to as the inclusivity style, which includes a arrow feature and a circle to represent and their representative colors. And through consultation with these above groups, it was noted that the second option was preferred. So we understand that pride crosswalks do not conform with Ontario Traffic Manual Book 11 based off the different colors of the crosswalk. However, we have looked into many other municipalities, including Muskoka Beach, Springwater, and Barrie, that have implemented non-standard crosswalks on their municipally traveled roadways. So we highlight that this is a relatively low risk of liability exposure. And finally, we looked into, again, the use of a traditional solvent-based road paint versus a durable pavement product. And there are some things to consider, like price point, the durability of the two different options, and maintenance considerations. So the traditional road paint has a lifespan of approximately 1 year. So it would have to, if we went that route, it would have to be repainted annually. The durable products are more expensive up front, but they have a lifespan of 2 to 3 years. And they just hold up to general wear and tear a little bit better. So the pricing that we have received so far was in the amount of approximately 10,000 for traditional road paints, in the style that the two groups earlier preferred. And for durable markings was in the price range of 25,000. Staff note that this is a rather high level estimate and subject to some change, as we have put the price on the conservative side to ensure adequate funding. The estimates we received, though, were very close in pricing to quotes that the Township of Innisfil received for a similar project. And yeah, that concludes my bit. If you had anything you wanted to add there.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Member Burkett.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Alex, for the report. I think both you and Derek crafted it very well done, and I'm glad that you showed some comparisons. And I want to thank the ladies that brought it forward. However, last week we, as a council, took pictures of It Starts. We have a very diverse community, as do all communities in Ontario, and we need to respect all of them. I think somewhere in the report it stated, and I know that they've had trouble in other municipalities in Simcoe. And if you read the report, they've listed which municipalities have struggled with the crosswalks. There's a recommendation that one of the town of, I can't remember which town, maybe Innisfil, placed a garden. And I'm fully supportive of empowering our students at Severn Shores. Let them come forward with a pride garden, do something like that where we can give them $500 a year, and let's build on that. And if we have other diverse, like because of the diverse communities we have within our township, let others come forward with different gardens as well. I think that's a better approach. They can take pride in what they're doing. I feel that would be a better use of our funds, because we have to remember it's $25,000. $25,000, and we have 2 other schools in our municipality, and we have other crosswalks that may want to do the same thing. We have to be conscious of the fact that we have residents that can't afford to pay their taxes. And as custodians, we here sitting at this table as custodians of those hard-earned dollars, we need to respect what's happening within our municipality. So I feel that empowering our students, as I've said, to create gardens on school property is something that I could wholeheartedly support. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Cox.
Through the chair. I totally agree. I like that idea. I looked up, I spent a lot of time looking up all this information too, because thank you, Derek and Alex, I was going to say Aaron. And it has been an issue in different ones, and they had all different types of ideas. And it went through my mind, and I thought the same as Member Burkett. The idea of diversity, because diversity isn't one group of anybody, it's diversity of everyone, age, religion, and everything. And I know that when I was an educational assistant at Moonstone School, we did a native garden, and it had the spokes, and it was 4 different spokes, and they were different colors, and the students picked different colored plants to match it. And that's something that you hand this to students, because it starts with the children. You do a diversity garden in a school, and everyone has an opportunity to say, we need to accept people who are old. We need to accept people who have different religions. And you could do it like a wheel, and each spoke could have a little saying on it. But give it to the kids. They come up with the best ideas and they will take ownership and they will take that information home and talk about it. And it's not that we picked somebody, we've said it's inclusion, it's diverse, and we all need to remember that and to include people in our lives and be understanding and learning from it. Anyway, I totally agree with it. And I think it'd be really good for the kids to do this because, and we could do it in the other schools also, because they'll learn how to do that. And then we'll say to them, well, what do you do next year? So they'll have to do a management and planning program and figure out what they need and listen to what other people think. Anyway, thank you very much.
Member Burkett. Member Brennan.
Thank you. Through the chair. I fully agree with the mayor and the deputy mayor on the garden concept. I reflected on this when I looked at it and the price is a bit of a concern, particularly when we're so vulnerable to bigots and vandals and bullies out there. It doesn't take much to damage these crosswalks. And having said that, I don't want to give them the satisfaction that they're getting their way either. So we do a good job of acknowledging pride groups, our First Nation people with flag raisings and so forth. But we really need to move beyond that on these things. At least one further step to really sincerely show where we're at on these things. And this Pride Garden does just that.
Diversity garden.
And it's for diversity. So it supports it supports the initiative here. It's more cost effective. And I fully agree with Deputy Mayor Cox. The idea of having the children design these gardens in the color combinations or whatever it is, to me, that's going to stay with those kids. It's going to stay with them a long time, and it's way better at the end of the day. So let's support diversity, but let's do it through a garden is where I would say. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Taylor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I agree with the previous comments, but I look at the cost for this, and you said it might last 2 or 3 years, and I just wonder what it looks like in 2 or 3 years, and what's the recurring cost to do it. I know on highways, the lines last a year and they look like crap. And from a dollars and cents point of view, we should do something better for our buck. Thank you.
Member Burkett.
Thank you, through Madam Chair, and thank you, Member Cox, for those comments. You know what? I'm almost excited to see what the kids will come out with. Like every year, and if we have to give them some more money, that's great. We have a grant program, but just to get the kids engaged and excited about something, I'm almost sure this will work really well.
Okay. I have some comments. So I think we missed the point that this is not a school-led initiative and it didn't come from the school. It's not about the kids creating a garden. It's about community. And not all the community goes to Severn Shores Public School. Like me, I live in that neighborhood. I don't have kids there and I like to be inclusive. We do have the school support and backing for that, not just from the school board, but the principal and the parent council. There are pride flags hanging in the windows of that school. There are diverse populations and non-binary students and families who are part of the school community, but also part of the bigger community. So it's not passing it off to the kids, I think is very disappointing for me. And I think we missed the boat on the It Starts campaign, the diversity pledges we all made last week. The schematic, the design that came forward from the groups is not about a sexual preference choice. It includes diverse groups like the ones we mentioned, like Black citizens, Browns, the Indigenous, all of that. And it's a visual representation of that. And it's not a garden. I realize that the price tag, $25,000 over 3 years, is an upfront cost. And I know that people drive across sidewalks, but conforming to people who will willfully damage it is not enough reason not to consider this request. And I know that you'll have a large community that will well, I just know I'll let them speak for themselves if the decision is turned down at this council. I realize that we all need to be understanding and learning from it, but it's not about the future generation. They already understand pride, and they're not offended by a rainbow sidewalk anywhere. I think that it's this generation that is the one that has a bigger problem with it. So I'm very disappointed at the comments that were made, but just wanted to clarify in case anyone was putting their opinion forward through a vote when the motion's read, that it was not brought on by the children of the school, and to give it back to the next generation is very disappointing. Okay, over to Madam Clerk for a motion, please.
Okay, based off the discussion, the motion would then read that Public Works Report number W24-008 dated March 27th, 2024 with respect to a Pride crosswalk be received. And further, that the Pride crosswalk not proceed at this time due to maintenance costs associated with the crosswalk. And further, that the township reach out to Severn Shores Public School regarding the development of a diversity garden with funding from the township in the amount of $500.
Member Brennan?
Yeah, may I request that we amend that a bit to suggest that we actually develop a staff report and policy with regard to diversity gardens, because we're going to get other requests, no doubt, and maybe they aren't all schools, but I think we want to show support for those communities. And yet, you can get a request from Coldwater tomorrow, and all we've done is dealt with one. Why wouldn't we have a broader interpretation of our approach to these things that we could show to all interested parties, schools, non-schools, whatever, as to where we stand on this? I would just suggest we amend it that way, if I may.
Thank you. Okay, member. I don't agree with the amendment. It's not a school's amendment about having gardens at schools. If the schools wanted to have gardens, they could. I don't really see the value in having a staff report if we're talking about financial considerations of taking it back to staff to work on a report about gardens at schools. So if you want to have a report about gardens on municipal property, that's another thing. But I don't see the value of that. So I don't agree with that amendment either. Thank you. Member Burkett.
Thank you, through Madam Chair. If you read the report, and Innisfil was one of the municipalities that struggled with the crosswalk, it says here, as a result, with the support from Innisfil Pride, the town have decided to remove the Pride crosswalk and replace it with a garden fitted with a flagpole. And maybe rather than having what Member Brennan has said, some conformity. I think that's what he's looking for, rather than, and I'm not sure what we put in a staff report. Maybe Member Brennan could just elaborate. Like, I'm happy to support it, but maybe just elaborate as to what you're looking for as far as a staff report.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair to Mayor Burkett. In essence, I would anticipate that we may get other requests from various groups. It could be Pride, it could be schools, it could be community groups with regard to the matter of biodiversity. And I was just suggesting that we have at least some sort of policy where we would say we will consider, I mean, we may not be able to accommodate everyone for whatever reasons, but that when it comes to these kinds of requests, we would consider mechanisms like Pride Gardens, medicine, based on sensible cost scenarios and so forth, that, people can bring these things forward. I'd just say, like, and I would agree with the chair. I don't think this is about just schools. This could be any group. If there is another group that wants to sponsor something like this, and they come up with a cost-effective way to promote the values that we want to promote, then I just think that would be a nice bullet.
Let's go to Member Taylor first, and then we'll go to the director. Thanks.
Yeah, just having a second thought about this. What about we're going to revamp or look at the grant policy with another or sub topic of the grants. We that's where we give grant money out, and this might be an excellent place. Different groups can apply for diversity gardens, etc.
Hello, Director Belfry.
Good morning, Chair. I've been listening to this conversation. I thought I would chime in here. The request for gardens on municipal property is interesting. However, there is a cost to that in the maintenance and the upkeep, and with the staffing levels. I would suggest that perhaps for consideration, in a previous municipality I worked in, we installed pride benches in parks, which are a bench with different color patterns like the crosswalks. They're considerably cheaper than the crosswalks. They're about $5,000 for the bench. And we could look at a program to develop putting those in parks as an option. So we could bring back a report on that to committee so you can gather more information on it. It's just something to consider as an option.
Member Cox.
Yeah, you did say that in here, and you're right. So it could come up with the fact that, and I disagree with what you said about the school. I think that the school is the place to start because right now we don't have anything in West Shore. And when we do have a West Shore Community Center, maybe there we will have another garden that we can put in. But as of now, we don't. But if we decide we'd rather do a bench, then we could do the bench. But up until then, the children are an integral part, and not all children. We can't just sort of assume that different ages have different views. We have to assume that everyone is moving towards the same goal of diversity. So I think that we maybe need to make a decision. Do we want the garden or do we want the bench?
Sorry, I'd like some clarification on what we're discussing because actually what's on the agenda is the Pride Crosswalk. And we're not discussing gardens. So I'd just like to separate those two, and I'd like some advice from the clerk on that.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And just a suggestion, so council can choose to split the matter too. So if council would like to deal with the staff report, just receive it and make a position on the crosswalk, that's fine. And then they can bring forward another motion to deal with next steps forward if they'd like. We've done that before where we split motions. If that helps resolve one, so the discussion can evolve or move on, or whichever way council chooses to go.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Okay, let's read the motion for what was in the agenda for the crosswalk, which was requested. And could I have a recorded vote?
Okay, so the motion is presented in the staff report, which was not what was tabled or read out for consideration, but the motion that's attached to the staff report is the Public Works Report number W24-008 dated March 27th, 2024 with respect to a Pride crosswalk be received, and further that council directs staff to proceed with the implementation of a Pride crosswalk style in appendix. Oh gosh, sorry, excuse me, my screen just moved. Further, that council directs staff to proceed with the implementation of the Pride crosswalk style in Appendix 1 using durable pavement marking product option in 2024. Recorded vote requested by Member Minnings.
Sorry, Member Cox.
Yeah, I'm just going to go back. I have the grant application because they came as a grant application, right? We would like to paint the crosswalk on Cumberland Beach in front of the Severn Shores Public School to promote equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging in our community. And I think a diversity garden or a bench does speak to that. So I don't think that they basically said it was one style. These are the things they want to promote. Anyway, carry on.
Sorry, with that motion, it's changed quite a bit from what's recommended in the report. And I'm wondering if it could mirror it, because what's in front of us is a recommendation that council directs staff to proceed with the implementation of the Pride Crosswalk style in Appendix 1 using durable pavement marking product option in 2024. That's not what we're voting on. Sorry, could you reread that then? So I heard something.
Certainly, you asked for the original motion
Yes.
to be brought back, which is the staff report one, which is the one I did just read. So the motion is then that Public Works Report number W24-008 dated March 27, 2024, with respect to a Pride Crosswalk be received, and further that council direct staff to proceed with the implementation of the Pride Crosswalk style in Appendix 1 using durable pavement marking product option in 2024.
Thank you.
And I believe you asked for a recorded vote.
Thank you.
So if I could have a mover and seconder.
Okay, moved by Member Taylor, seconded by Member Cox. Okay, recorded vote. Thank you.
Recorded vote requested by Member Minnings, for or against.
4.
Okay. Member Burkett, for or against.
Against? No.
Member Brennan, for or against. Member Cox, for or against.
Against.
Member Taylor, for or against.
No.
Okay, that motion is lost. So now if council wants to consider another motion, then that is their choice.
Member Cox.
Through the chair to the CAO. I need some help here. We're talking about gardens or benches, schools or in front of schools. Is this something that we can make a decision on now? And I don't think we need a staff report. I just think we need some guidance on where to get to where we all want to be. No offense. Like, should we say these are our two options, a bench and a garden, speak to the school and see what they say about it, and then have it come back? Does that sound like an idea that there's two options there that they could decide? Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, Member Burkett, and then we'll go to the CO.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Just to Member Cox's comments, like, do we need to make that decision or a motion right now? Because we have a grant program. The two ladies that brought it forward, I'm sure are listening, if not maybe in the audience. They can come forward with a grant proposal that we can either say yes or no to, and we've given them another idea based on the report. But I think, do we actually need a staff report? Now, I guess I'll look to Madam CAO. Because of our grant program, as I've said, and what we're able to do as a council, it just needs to come to council or to committee or council for a request.
Thank you. Through the chair, I think you want to end the day on a positive note. I've heard a lot about diversity and inclusivity and how we value that. So I think coming out of this meeting with some option to demonstrate that would be good. So whether you direct staff to offer out some money to schools to do diversity gardens, whether you direct the director to look at a program to put benches in parks, I'm not sure, but I think you want to come out of this with something.
It did submit. Thank
you. Member Brennan.
To the chair, because of the decision we just made on the original motion, I don't feel compelled to rush into a decision on this, but I do agree we should end on a positive note. And I don't know whether it's benches. I don't know what it is at the end of the day, but it's clear that we're ready to make a commitment to support these diverse groups, and a little time would help. I mean, this is not something I've given any deep consideration to. I have done no research on the topic. I just don't feel, unless I was pressed, I don't feel an urgent need to make it, other than a commitment to let's look at this and see where it fits in our strategy overall, and come up with a clear perspective for applicants as to what we think is economical and supportive. And to me, that's a report of some sort. I mean, if we do it, fine, but
Thank you. So just a couple comments regarding next steps, and I'm glad to hear that we're open to next steps. However, going back to the original requesters to suggest they put in a grant application, that's where they started last June. Just as a reminder flag. So that would be very frustrating to go back to them and suggest they put in that. However, I think going forward, because we are not reflective of a diverse group here on council, and hopefully the next term of council will reflect more diversity. So I agree that we need to maybe open it up and not rush into anything. And I think engaging our diverse communities, including the two requesters who put the original idea forward, different communities, as well as other diversity groups in the township, would be a really good use of time, so that then we can actually make a decision. But for me to sit here today and say that putting in a garden is going to be a big is going to be something that's welcomed by the diversity groups, I wouldn't be able to make a decision on that without having that recommendation come from them. Member Burkett and then Member Cox, please.
Through you, Madam Chair, and not to disrespect you, but your comments are offensive to me. I'm sorry. We, as a council or as a committee, respect the diversity that we have in our community. You've just finished saying that we don't, and we absolutely do respect each and every person for whatever they are. If you read the report and the troubles that other municipalities are having because of what they've placed, is not fair to our residents, not fair to the diverse groups that we have within our municipalities. Like I'm taking this personally, and I'm very upset. I'm trying to control and choose the right words. And you are the chair, Madam Chair, and I will respect that. But I think your comments hurt me to the core, and I'm sure they hurt others sitting on this committee. We respect all groups. We're a very diverse community. My parents were ethnic when they came here. I was picked on as a child because of my background. And I can respect every group, whoever they are and whatever they are. And I'm happy to provide funding for that group, but I think they need to come forward. They asked originally for $3,000. We're at 25 and having to replace it in 2 or 3 years, and not to mention what happened in other municipalities. So I don't know whether we just leave it and have them come back and we grant them the monies that they need to provide that diversity. But I think it's excellent to get our kids involved so they understand what we're dealing with in the diverse community that we have.
Thank you. And I just want to correct what I said was that I didn't say we don't respect, as a council, we don't respect diverse groups. I said we don't reflect diverse groups. And that's visual minorities, etc. So I'm just saying that it came forward from a community. There are other representative groups that we've spoken about within the township, and I'm all for diversity and inclusion and equity initiatives. I never said that we do not respect what was as our comments. I said we don't reflect it. It's a broader discussion because I think that they have the ideas and they would be able to tell us what they would like to see in their community. I don't know that we can make that decision without input from diverse groups. Madam Member Cox.
Well, I too took offense, and reflect or respect, it's the same thing. We may not all be different colors sitting here, but in our backgrounds and the way we were raised, I was raised in a small town, and I was raised to respect and reflect and accept everyone the way they were. My dad was a doctor, and we went out to many homes in many places. And I take offense because you don't have to be a certain color or a certain religion pasted on your head to say you're diverse. It's what comes out of your heart and what you believe. And if you care and you believe, then people will believe you care. And we do care. And this has been very obvious here on how we would like to do this. So I think that we can probably bring it back and see where we'd like to go. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Over to Madam Clerk for a motion, please.
Thank you. So a new motion would read that Public Works Report number W 24-008 dated March 27, 2024, with respect to a Pride Crosswalk be received. And further, that the Council of the Township of Severn expresses their commitment towards diversity, and that staff report back about programs and options.
Thank you. Could you add equity and inclusion to the diversity? So diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yeah, and that one. Okay, moved by Member Cox, seconded by Member Brennan. All in favor? Okay, and passed. Thank you. Can we take a 5-minute break? Thank you. We'll reconvene at 10:30. Okay, thank you. Let's resume our meeting. We are on item F 2.5 Silver Creek Tract Aggregate Extraction Lease Agreement. Over to you, Mr. Burke, please.
Thank you through the chair. Bear with me, just opening the report here. So this report identifies a successful negotiation with the County of Simcoe for the Silver Creek Tract Aggregate Extraction Lease Agreement. There's a few major changes. One that probably is the most conversed throughout the year and change that we had been working on this is the price per ton. And what we have here is a good market rate, probably a fair market rate for raw materials. And then, of course, our cost to process it turns it into useful aggregate. So, yeah, any questions through the report? I'm happy to answer them.
Member Taylor.
Yeah, just for interest, Derek, what would our cost be if we buy from our local aggregate company?
So raw materials aren't necessarily sold at the production level, but if you were to, it's around $2 to $3 would be raw. Aggregate comes out at about $8 to $15 per ton, depending on its quality.
Just to follow up, Derek. So the pit itself, is that? I thought we owned a majority of the property and the county owned another side. Is that so? It's the same. It's adjoining properties. Is that how that works?
Yeah, through the chair, in the appendice of the agreement, it's actually the site plan, and you'll see a line that goes, fairly dark line that goes through about, I would say, a third of the property. So 2/3 is our property, has been more or less exhausted of aggregate, and of course, the last third is the county lease agreement, which our extraction rights exist across that land. So we have permit to extract, and then this lease agreement gives me authorization to harvest those resources.
And through the chair, just in closing, we had a good deal for until now. Thank you.
Thank you. My only question to you, Mr. Burke, is how does that reflect in the budget? Because our budget's jumping from, more than, 8 times. Thank you.
Through the chair, so the mechanisms of funding of the pit operations are dispersed back to the areas of service that they consume. And so throughout the various budget line items, including winter control sand production, road renewal for gravel road resurfacing, culvert renewal, and all of the shoulder work that we do effectively pays for this. And there is a contingency built into those budget values that would absorb this readily, being that it appears on the surface quite an aggressive increase, but we do extract quite a large quantity of material out of here. So over the entire extraction year, it is absorbed within the existing operating budget.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have a motion?
We do. So the motion reads that Public Works Report number W24-011 dated March 27, 2024, with respect to Silver Creek Tract Aggregate Extraction Lease Agreement be received, and further that the proposed renewal terms be accepted.
Thank you. And do I have a mover? Moved by Member Taylor, seconded by Member Cox. All in favor? Thank you, and carried. Item F 2.6 Public Works Report Petition for Drainage Work. Over to you, Mr. Burke.
And thank you through the chair. So this report highlights the next step in the petition for the municipal drain at the northern properties around Anderson Line, Upper Big Chute Road, River Street, kind of that corner in Coldwater. We have advanced the required letters of notice to the Ministry of Natural Resources, Ministry of Agricultural, and neighboring municipalities and petitioners. We had not received a recommendation or requirement from any of those parties for the two components of a cost-benefit analysis or environmental appraisal. And therefore, the next step is to present this report and also look to appoint a drainage engineer. We have discussed the file with a consulting engineer that was tied to the original petition, and they have confirmed with us that they would be willing to take on the role of drainage engineer. I think there's some cost efficiencies there, which is a natural benefit to all petitioners involved in the process. And then so that is Chatham Engineering. that we'd like to appoint as drainage engineer for this project.
Okay, thank you. Member Burkett.
Thank you through you, Madam Chair, to Derek. How many landowners does it affect, Derek?
So through the chair, there's currently 4 landowners that are identified potential affected, but part of the drainage engineer's work is to clearly define the catchment area that's going to be effectively improved as part of the works, and therefore would have assessment. So it's unclear exactly how many would be involved in the process, but at the moment there's actually only two petitioners that are driving the vote on this. And that's currently who we're working with. So I guess in short, yeah, it could be more residents, but the catchment area is pretty defined as we reported in an earlier staff report.
Supplementary, if I may, Madam Chair, through you to Derek. So Derek, the other, like the 4, like this is like a municipal drain where everyone pays their fair share, correct? Is that the way this will work?
Yeah, through the chair, we have a number of them throughout the township, the Purbrick Creek being kind of notable one, I suppose, of late. And yes, it is a cost sort of neutral position, save and except that the municipality does pay its assessment as well. So the roads and any municipal lands that we have in the catchment area, would be equally assessed as a landowner. But yes, this mechanism is a cost recovery style drainage improvement.
So supplementary, if I may, through the chair, Derek, not just so that councils or the committee's aware. So the 2, you said 2 originally started the petition. Do the other ones, that the other 2, are they aware of costs that may be incurred down the road, or is that something that we wait until that engineering report comes back to us?
Through the chair, so part of the process to define the drain and to basically define the catchment area and proceed with assessment will require some notification to all affected property owners. So all affected property owners will have a chance to effectively agree or disagree with this process.
Okay, but if they, supplementary, if I may, through the chair, through Madam Chair, if they disagree, who ends up paying for the bill? Do we end up footing the bill? Is that what happens because of the 2 that petitioned it originally?
So through the chair, and actually our clerk has attended some training, so she's probably more versed than this than I am. Mine was a few years ago. But if the petition fails, then under the Act, any cost borne by the drainage engineer, the municipality, will be distributed back to those petitioners. So that's sort of a risk that they have with petitioning for municipal drain, under this process, under the Drainage Act.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was getting at. Perfect.
Thank you. Member Taylor.
Thanks to the chair, to Derek. So thanks for explaining. I didn't know who pays for this, and at least we're not on the hook if it fails. But MNRF and OMAFRA are not an approving authority. Is that correct? We don't need them to go ahead?
So through the chair, no, the first step in the process is to advise them of the petition and to give them opportunity to request the cost benefit analysis and the environmental appraisal requirements, which they have declined to do so.
Follow up what Member Burkett was saying. So do we need, of the 4 petitioners, do we need 50% to go ahead, or how does that work?
Through the chair, no, I believe it's a, actually, clerk, do you happen to remember the rules on that?
Just a follow up, because you mentioned Purbrick Creek, and I know people that live on Thorburn pay into it goes for miles, and this may be bigger than you think it is because the water runs downhill. And so as Member Burkett was saying, there could be a lot more than 4 people involved in this project.
There very much could be. It's supposed to, they call it like a catchment area, is probably an easier, more apt description for it. So there's the petitioners, and then that would be in that catchment area that's serviced by the drain that all get caught along the way. There's various steps along the way for anyone who will be given an assessment. I think it's the best way to describe it, to ask questions, and there's even a quarter revision. So when they get to given a formal assessment and they disagree with it, then they can come to that court of revision and go through that process. So this is the start of a very long process. It is not short. And it has many stop and starts through along the way for those affected.
And just one last supplemental. I know there's another area in the township that I'm keenly interested how this process works, and we'll just stay back and watch. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Cox.
Yeah, through the chair. We had this already. We were the Court of Revision. They came to us from that other one. But what I found interesting, it says, if the petition does not lead to successful improvement. So if we go through all this and it doesn't improve their problems, the two people who petitioned it, it says the incurred expenses may be with responsibility. So if we do this and it doesn't fix their problems, they have to pay everybody back. Sorry, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm not understanding what that means. Incurred expenses may be the responsibility of the petition. That's the part I don't get.
Yeah. So through the chair, I think it might just be a terminology thing. It's the improvements are what the act refers to as work. And so, the whole intent is to improve the drainage of the lands, but that'll sort of be prescribed by the drainage engineer about what level of improvements that would be.
Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have a motion?
Yes, so the motion reads that Public Works Report number W24-010 dated March 27, 2024, with respect to a petition for drainage work be received, and further that the petition for drainage work on the southwest quadrant of Anderson Line and Upper Big Chute Road be accepted, and further that staff be directed to appoint Chatham Engineering as the drainage engineer for the petition.
Thank you. Moved by Member Taylor, seconded by Member Cox. All in favor and carried. Thank you. Okay, we're on to new business. Agenda item G. We'll start with G1, general grant application from Early On Child and Family Center, Simcoe North. And I would like to ask the clerk to present this request.
Certainly. So we received this request just a little while ago. And they're asking for funding to help cover the costs of using the community centers to do their programs and offset their supplies. So their request is $4,000.
For $1,000? Okay, thank you. Member Cox.
Through the chair to the clerk, they didn't apply at budget? Because they usually do, so they're late, right? Okay.
And we will add them to our annual circulation. We send an email out to all the
But they
groups
did,
in
we
around.
did circulate to them because we have every other year, because I remember commenting that they'd never applied because we always did it for the Washago. We always gave them the rent money. Mm-hmm. Sorry, but I do remember that because I was surprised when I saw that.
And sometimes it's a change in whoever's supposed to submit it to, and they just miss it for 1 year. So, this is specifically with respect to an increase in rates. So, that happened when our rental rates just went through a adjustment.
Thank you, Member Taylor.
Yeah, through the chair to Allison. So is another option to give them rent free at our facilities? Is that, or is this money going to come back to us anyway?
So essentially what would happen here is that the bill that has been invoiced would just be paid out of the grants budget is how this works. So it's not that we're going to cut them a check and send them the check. It's unless it's for the difference between what the rental fee is. So that's the supplies piece. But we would deduct the rental fees off first and then send them a check for whatever the balance is off the $1,000 towards their supplies.
Sorry, Member Cox.
How much is left in the grants? How much is left in the grants? Sorry. We're okay, aren't we?
I'm attempting to pull that up, but I believe our
thank you.
treasurer's in it as well. So it's just slowing my ability to open it from this side of the building.
Because it is an excellent program.
If I can, through the chair, there is certainly room in the contingency still for. I don't know if it's been updated for the last grant we did for $500. It might be already, but there is room in the grants contingency for this.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a motion?
Certainly, motion reads that a general program grant in the amount of $1,000 be awarded to Early On Child and Family Center, Simcoe North.
Do I have a mover? Moved by member Brennan, seconded by member Cox. All in favor? And carried. Okay, item G2. I'm going to pass the chair to member Brennan because I'm bringing forward the next report. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead and present your report.
Okay, back to me. I'm bringing forward a request for return to council meetings to chambers, so an in-person request. And I put the detail in the report that I attached. I know that currently we have a hybrid model, and that's great, etc. But it's been quite a long time, several months, since we've been able to have any consistency in having all of council here in person. And it does provide a different opportunity for us to all be in the room together. So I'm not necessarily looking at every single meeting because we have committee meetings, council meetings going forward, but maybe even something quarterly where going forward we would have at least a meeting a month, whether it's a committee meeting or a council meeting, where we're all here. And that might be an opportunity to also let the public know that, so that they could come in and have the opportunity to have those opportunities to see us in action and have informal conversations afterwards too, which I find are very beneficial. So open to discussion.
Yes, questions, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, we already do have, this committee is already in person. I think you changed the planning to be in person. So the only one that isn't in person, that you don't have to be here. Some people are here because Jim hasn't got good internet, and sometimes your internet isn't any good. And sometimes I come in because I'm just going to go shopping after, because our council meetings are sometimes 20 minutes long. All we're doing is ratifying. So I would leave it exactly the way we have it now. We already have in-person meetings, and I think it's working very well. I'll be the first one to tell you that our planning meetings have never been so well attended since we went on Zoom, because so many people can pop away from work for a half an hour and make their presentation and go back. We have more seasonal people who are now showing up at meetings, and I hear people all the time in the street tell me that, oh, I just Zoom on and I listen to your meetings. And I'm like, oh, well, it makes me feel better, because I don't know if anybody ever does. Because before that, really, we and I'm so happy you're here, because there are times that we don't have anybody. Thank you very much.
Yes, Mayor Burkett.
Thank you, through Chair. We do have two, I just echo what Member Cox says. We do have two meetings now where they're in person. Council meetings are relatively quick. And if we want to attract a younger counselor, for example, Member Jansen, for a drive from Coldwater, and I think one of our council meetings was 8 minutes. And I can understand the camaraderie that we have. We'd like to be together, but it's such a long drive for such a short meeting. Council, more or less, is where we ratify our bylaws. So we passed a motion. We'd have to change the procedural bylaw to return to in-person council meetings. And again, I look to attracting younger members, which we need. I think we should just leave it the way it is for this term of council, and the next term of council, if they so choose to return to in person, they can do it. Just my comments, my thoughts.
Thank you. Member Taylor.
The other two are hybrid in-person meetings. Why not make them all the same? So everyone knows you can come in person, or you don't have to. It's wide open. So why not make them all the same? Just my thoughts.
There's more. I'm sort of a like mind with the mayor and the deputy mayor on this thing. I come in. I live 5 minutes from here, so I wasn't even going to input into this because it's not fair. I can, my computer can crash and I can be here in seconds. But the idea of someone traveling from Ward 1 or 5 for a 20-minute meeting is not very appealing, I don't think, particularly in the colder months. And I think it's working. Yes, I actually, very good report. I want to compliment you. Put some work into that. But I think we're getting a good job done now under the current rules of engagement. And I'm happy with the status quo. Can we have a motion, please?
Okay, so the motion is based off member Minning's report. So the motion reads that council meetings be held in a hybrid format from council chambers. The motion is based off Councillor Minning's report because it was her motion to put forward. So the motion reads that council meetings be held in a hybrid format from council chambers. That is the motion based off member Minning's report as presented.
So
The key comment is that it's from council.
yeah,
From council
so, yeah,
chambers.
okay, thank you.
So if you were not in favor of the change, then you would vote against the motion. But it is member Minning's motion as put forward in her staff report.
Yeah. So can I have a mover, please? Seconder? All in favor? Voted against your own motion?
Sorry, could you reread the motion? Because I've obviously misunderstood it.
So the motion was based off your report that said that council meetings be held in a hybrid format from council chambers. So that would bring us back in for the meetings.
So the motion, yeah, the motion is for status quo if the motion fails.
So the motion is for hybrid meetings in support of hybrid.
Based out of council chambers for council members.
Correct. And what I put forward was in-person meetings.
Yes. So,
So I voted against hybrid. I'm for, that's why I voted no, because my request was for us all to gather in person at some, to make a commitment, at least quarterly, to gather in person, all of us together, not hybrid.
Okay. So the
I gather what you're saying is no more hybrid council meetings.
Sorry, through the chair. No, I'm
Well,
saying.
then that's what she said. She said it's a hybrid meeting the way it is now, but instead of us being able to either come in or stay home, you're asking it to be hybrid and you have to be at the council chamber.
Yes.
And that's what that motion said.
That's what that motion said, right?
So if you vote yes, it means that you want it changed, that you want to have to come to council meetings.
That's right.
And if you can't, you can hybrid. But if you said no, it's like
Then the
way it is.
The current
The
rules
way
of
we're
order
doing it.
engagement are in place. Either way, you have hybrid opportunity.
Yes. And
But
we don't have to be here.
yeah, a no vote says that people shouldn't feel compelled to come into the council chambers because generally it's treated as a Zoom, but you can come in anytime. Correct. Madam Clerk? Yes. Go ahead.
You have to disconnect there. Yeah, so basically, if all the meetings are the same, you can come in person anytime. People or taxpayers can come in anytime. If you can't, you come in on hybrid. If I'm in Newfoundland under this proposal, council would still come in person, but if I can't make it, I'll Zoom from Newfoundland. So I don't see any harm in making it hybrid to make it flexible for everybody, that if there's a bad snowstorm out in Matchedash, I can Zoom in and not miss the meeting. Am I missing something, Madam Clerk? Yeah.
Okay, so with respect to the change, so originally at the start of this term, we were not permitting hybrid at all, which is why we stuck with complete Zoom. And then we brought corporate services back in early last year, and we amended the procedural bylaw to allow for hybrid participation by council members in a meeting. But there is still a stipulation in the council procedural bylaw. The council shall make the strongest attempt basically to come in for the meetings. And then very recently, we also brought Planning and Development Committee back into chambers based on that same hybrid concept. The motion that is on the floor would be to match today's arrangement. Understanding that I believe member Minnings is proposing, not attempting, apologies, wrong word. Is proposing that maybe outside of a regularly scheduled meeting, maybe a special meeting or something like that, that we hold maybe one meeting where all of council is required to be in chambers. That is separate from the normal regular council meetings. That is a different thing than amending the council procedural bylaw just to bring council meetings back in. As of right now, the way it's worded, council meetings are held completely via Zoom. If members attend in chambers, it's not with public attendance. It's intended to be, council does not have internet or they're headed into somewhere else along the way and they came here because it's easier. What happened last month was highly unusual. It was not advertised that way. And it is important from our side of the table here, that it be determined whether or not council intends to be in chambers and it be a hybrid meeting or whether it be 100% virtual, because it leads to, some very serious logistical IT issues for us on the staff side, which we very much encountered earlier this month. So with respect to the standing monthly council meetings, I might suggest we deal with those first. And then if member Minnings would like to put something else forward as a follow-up, then she could do that. But the motion, this member Minnings report kind of alludes to two things. So there's the regular council meeting, because that's the way I took, apologies, your proposed motion. And then there's the staff report itself, or your report itself, which talks about potential one-off meetings once in a while to come back in person. We will always be live streaming our meetings going forward to ensure that that is there for the public. It's entirely council's option as to how they choose to proceed.
If I just if I may, too, in addition to the logistical issues that come when you don't know, there's always the potential. Again, from my point of view, this is no big deal, but for those people that are working full time, that are farther away from the office, you know, it wouldn't be a giant leap for someone, for instance, in the next election campaign to say, wow, Bobby never showed up for meetings. He was always on Zoom. He didn't care. Well, that's just not a fair assessment of the situation. And what we're doing, I think, is creating a situation where that criticism is possible, when in fact, all Bobby as a counselor was something that was logical in terms of time management. So to me, there's the two things about that. It seems like a subtle change, but I don't know. It's working. Why not? It's not broken. Leave it alone.
Yeah, just to recap, I can't see any harm in making all the meetings hybrid. And then that's the first motion. And then we can get into, if member Minnings wants something else, we can do something secondary there. That's just my thoughts.
So, sorry. To the mayor, please. Go ahead.
Through the chair to Madam Clerk. So now I'm confused, Madam Clerk. The motion that you read, is it status quo or is it hybrid?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So if the motion were to pass, we would go to a format that is similar to Corporate Services and Planning and Development Committee. If the motion is defeated, then we would remain as is, as we currently do for council meetings. The monthly.
All right. Gotcha.
The member Cox.
If you just read this motion that you put forward, then we can say no and be done.
Yep.
Because it says return to the pre-pandemic status of holding council meetings in person at the council chambers. And that's very clear. And then we can either vote yes or no.
Perfect.
Keep it simple.
Further questions? No? Can we have your motion, please?
Okay. So the motion then reads, as directly taken from member Minnings' report, that council amend the council procedural bylaw and return to pre-pandemic status of holding council meetings in person at the council chambers.
Mover. And seconder by member Jennings. Member Jennings. Where'd that come from? All in favor? And opposed. Yes.
Could I ask for a
No, Bill.
motion to see if council meetings could be hybrid?
They are.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
No, they're not.
Through you, Mr. Chair, council meetings right now are publicized as 100% virtual. They are not hybrid, which is why you see council members sitting in different rooms around the office. We do not use the microphone system. We do not stream it. We've done it the last couple of times just due to logistics. But this would mean that council remained 100% virtual.
Right.
Thank you. The
Yes.
challenge with going hybrid is you're going to disadvantage the members who work because they're not making, if the meeting's only going to be half an hour, they're not going to spend an hour in the car to get here. So they're not meeting the make every attempt to come to a meeting. And we're just worried that someone will hold that against them at a later time.
Yeah.
The reason why I said it is because hybrid would work in that case. If you don't want to drive in, go hybrid. But this way, then our taxpayers know that at least they can come in person for every meeting and they can see people, those that are here and those that aren't there. And in cases before, I think the dog walking lady came here and she couldn't speak to council. She could only see us virtually. So like, once again, I think I would support the motion that I've asked for there.
Member Cox.
That was a 1-in-1 because that one was we were asked to have that brought forward quickly. And so it came to council. Otherwise, if we all notice, these meetings, corporate services and planning, are where we have all our delegations, we have all our discussion because we know they're all-day meetings and now we're all in person. Then what happens is we have 2 weeks to think about it. And then at council, if you want to pull something or you've changed your mind or something comes up, you have that opportunity to do it. And as we've all said, it's walk in the door, we go through the thing, we ratify all the hard work we've already done, and within a half an hour to 40 minutes, we're finished. So I am just happy to leave it the way it is. Thank you.
Member Burkett, did you have a question?
No, thank you, Chair. I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Then we've been asked to produce a further motion.
Correct. So member Taylor's motion would be that council meetings be held in a hybrid meeting format based out of council chambers.
Mover, Councilor Taylor. Seconder, Member Minnings. I don't know why I keep wanting to call you Jennings. All in favor? Opposed?
Defeated?
Motion fails.
Thank you. I'll resume the chair.
Thank you.
Position now. Thank you. Number G3, report by member Taylor, Twin Oaks subdivision private road standardization project. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. So I think I'll kick this off and I hope Mr. Burke will jump in. So people on Twin Oaks, residents have been asking me about the process of having the township assume this road. And it was brought to highlight there, Madam Clerk, who came from Tay Township, is where this came from. This was a plan of subdivision, which allowed private roads to be built on a township road. And interesting enough, there's a reserve account in there that when we sold the 3 lots there on Trader Cowan, that they went into a reserve fund that could be used for this subdivision. So once again, these roads are private roads on municipal property, and they're in very bad condition, very poor. What's triggered this thing in March, and we've got copies of it, that the county of Simcoe basically said they're not going to go through there next winter unless the roads are plowed and sanded. And the county would make a new location, the corner of Trader Cowan and Twin Oaks, and it would make it, there's a lot of seniors on this road, and it would be very difficult. Mr. Burke has identified these roads in the Transportation Master Plan. And with the discussion, the many emails that are forwarded there, the good news is that there's a new road committee, which will pass the names on to Mr. Burke. But there's a lot of questions. So basically, I'm asking Mr. Burke can tell us how local improvement works. When and how are property owners identified? Can they be different types of projects proposed, i.e. like pavement, sidewalks, or just gravel? And would all of the three roads that were included here be included in this Twin Oaks subdivision road agreement? And that's all I've got for now. And I jump in a little later if Derek can speak to that.
And thank you through the chair. I think to start is maybe I'll just preface that probably a staff report would be the most appropriate to collate some of this information together. And we don't have a capital works project in front of us for this, but a bit of background is we've identified this area as, an underdeveloped private roadway with municipal property underneath. And there's actually not that many events of that. So in the transportation master plan, our consulting engineer identified them as risks to the transportation system and opportunities for improvement. These were identified in this particular area as RD 8 or 7, I believe it is, Road Development Project 7. And it was within the 1 to 5 year range to look at because of the urgency of that many homes, that many residents living in an area that was effectively on a private roadway with an unclear road association and unclear maintenance plan. So that's the heart of it. From what I gather, we have not advanced that project yet. It sounds like that would be something council would be interested in soon. And the mechanisms to fund a project like that could be, and probably most appropriately, be a local area improvement. And that process is effectively under the Municipal Act, the ability to improve an area, spend capital dollars, and recover that over time on each one of the property assessments. Now, of course, we've actually done one or two of these as a municipality. One example is West Shore Wastewater and Water System, where the remaining balance of the cost of the project, save and accept some grants or some other form of funding, which we do know there's a small reserve or a reasonable reserve fund set aside for this project from years ago, plus the recent sale of some property that could be distributed back to the property owners on a frontage length basis. So that's kind of the heart of what I think we have in here. I think a staff report might be better to describe in full of what's going on here. And of course, a project at one day decided to advance, which is where you would see the notifications to residents and that sort of process.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Burke. Any other comments, discussion? Member Brennan?
Yes, thank you through the chair. I like the idea of a report. There's a couple of things I'm hoping we can address here. And when you talk about a report, I'm not familiar with the details around when you use local road boards and not. Would that be part of that report?
Yeah, through the chair, I think the report would identify the process to improve the roads, and the clerk just reminded me that these processes take quite a long time,
Yes.
And there is a time concern here based in the correspondence that we've received. I think our recommendation is to rectify the maintenance of a private road through a private road association, which I understand might be already in the works, to resolve those immediate issues.
Yeah, just if I may, supplementary, the new road committee document that was forwarded to us from Councillor Taylor, and I'm glad to have that in my hands here. But right in the front, it says that the committee will represent all property owners in the township. I would like to know how that works, because I think the committee would represent the owners there, not all the private. So, and the reason I say this is that there are lots of roads out there, at least what I've seen traveling around the township. There are lots of roads out there, bridges, God knows there's no end to things that we could get into. And in the course of dealing with that and making things right for everyone, we need to keep in mind that the taxpayer overall is affected by the costs, and it has to be fair. So I'd be concerned with this. I'm also aware at this point in time that, and I don't understand how this road was maintained up until this notice came out. Like, what on earth was going on that road until that time? I find very curious myself on that, and there may be good reasons, but I don't know what they are at this point in time. And I agree, it would take some time to put one of these things in motion, when in fact, what I understand here is that what's needed is to salt and sand that road in the winter, and that is not beyond the means of the current people there that I can see. So I look forward to your report very much so. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Burkett?
Thank you through you, Madam Chair. And just to Member Brennan's comments, there are oodles of private roads with road associations that are created to either maintain their sections of road. And my cottage is on one of those where I pay a minimal fee every year to maintain the road. And we have to remember that I think what happened with Twin Oaks is whoever was in charge is no longer there. The county is happy to go down the road if they can get down the road, to your point. It needs to be salted and sanded. But having said that, this does open a whole Pandora's box because of the number of roads that we do have within the township that are similar to this. And I'm happy in waiting for the report to come back from Mr. Burke. And one of them is West Canal that has as many homes on it as Twin Oaks does. And that's been a constant thorn in all our sides from day one, and it's unique there because there's a section of the road that's private in between two sections that are owned by the township that are private roads. But I want in the report, Mr. Burke, if you could just, or maybe Andrew will have to weigh in on it, if that road is brought up to township standards, how does that affect their taxes? Does it increase it? Does it decreases? But as part of your report, and I'm looking forward to it, and I'm happy to support it based on whatever the report says. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Taylor.
Yeah, through to the mayor's comments, big difference here. There's a reserve account in there for $600,000 that is for that subdivision. And in essence, under Derek's proposal, it's no cost to the township. It's going to be borne by the property owners in that area. So a lot different than West Canal Road, that it's going to be in the report. It's going to say what it's a project cost and how it's going to be allocated to people to pay for it. And then people like Andrew will get and say, here's what your annual cost is going to be, very similar to the West Shore Water and Sewer project. So we're not opening Pandora's box. We're seeing what the project entails here and looking for a good report from Derek on that.
Okay, seeing no more comments, over to you, Madam Clerk. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see your sign up.
My biggest concern is that it's a local improvement. That's what I want it to be. If they want the road fixed, here's how much it's going to cost. And that way, any other private road association or private people, they want their road fixed, that's what it's going to cost. And that's what will come out in the report. So thus, we will have at least some type of clear for everybody else to know if that's what they want to do. And it also gives the option to the owners, and the township has property there too. So we'll have to pay for our frontage. And we also have to understand that there'll be people who will have to put this, and it will be like on their mortgage, on their taxes every year, and they'll have to make that decision. But if it was working before, it may work well now if they get that road committee going, and then maybe there's ways that pot can be fulfilled some other way. But anyway, at least we're looking at it and letting everyone know the clear future costs for them.
Okay, thank you. Member Taylor.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the member Cox for getting to the county and about the garbage pickup. And hopefully, if there are some improvements with this private road committee, that we can get, at least in the short term, get their garbage pickup, because it's going to be very difficult to wheel those bins around to the corner there of Trader Cowan and Twin Oaks.
Sorry, just in reply, I talked to Mr. Williams. He's off on paternity leave, but anyway, I talked to them and they said the roads, they got in and out before, it was fine. And so, you know, if they get the road committee fixed up and they can get in and out like they did before, they're okay with it. So that's okay. I think they've obviously, they're on top of this now.
Member Burkett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just some history. And county council, when we looked at the garbage pickup, I know that we voted in favor because of our seasonal residents and because of some of the roads that were private or unassumed road allowances. They opted for smaller trucks so that they were able to access those roads. So we wholeheartedly voted in favor of providing that service for all our residents. I'm happy to support it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? No. Okay, over to you, Madam Clerk, please.
Thank you. The motion reads that staff provide a report outlining the steps involved for the township to upgrade Twin Oaks Twin Oaks subdivision private roads, including Twin Oaks Crescent, Fairview Drive, and Sugar Maple Drive.
Thank you. May I have a mover?
I think it was well written on that one. I'll move it.
Member Taylor, seconded by Member Burkett. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Are we going back to D, item D now? Okay, over to you, Member Cox.
Yeah. I'm sure everyone has read this, and it has become, I've read more and more in the paper about it. The fact that we will be liable as a township if we have a roads, we've hired somebody to fix our road, let's say a company, ABC. ABC's out there and someone gets killed. We are considered the employer. Thus, it comes back to us. And the province needs to look at this because this is not our responsibility. We need to relook at the Health and Safety Act. And it's Grey County, Bruce County, they've all sent in. So I would like us to pass this and promote it, for whatever the word, I lost my mind on it. Anyway, yes, and I think we need to agree with this because I think that we are on a slippery slope here. Thank you.
Okay, any comments, discussion? Okay, and we have a motion?
Certainly. So it's that the report from the County of Simcoe be received and that the township write a letter to the Ministry of Labor requesting the province amend the Occupational Health and Safety Act to clarify the definition of employer to exclude owners that have contracted a constructor for the project.
Thank you. And do we have a mover? Moved by Member Cox, seconded by Member Taylor. All in favor? And carried. Thank you. Okay, so we are going to item H, committee member updates, and I'll start with Ward 1, Member Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. First, organization is Severn Sound Environmental Association. So Friday, April the 5th, two things are happening on April the 5th in Elmville. There's an open house from 12 to 4, and Severn Sound is going to highlight water quality, invasive species, source protection, tree planting, algae bloom. So it's from 12 to 4, like an open house. And then that night, there's going to be an awards and partners reception at the Elmville Community Hall. Doors open at 5:30 and the ceremony is from 6 to 7 to acknowledge landowners and volunteers that make this organization terrific. Back to the Coldwater Mill. We're planning for the full season underway. And returning again this year is Friday night music in August and September. And the mill works very closely with the BIA and Coldwater and the events. So we're working very well with BIA on there. Matchadash Community Heritage Center. We're planning the return of our annual Eagle Party, and it's going to be on May the 4th at the Coldwater Legion at 7 o'clock. It's a few weeks after the Lions Club, and we hope both will be a success, and I'm sure they will be. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to Member Brennan, Ward 3.
Thank you. Yeah, first one I'll report back on is the Aurelian Lake Country physician recruitment. We're working hard on recruiting doctors. Last month has been a sort of a step forward and a step back. We're having better luck with specialists than with family physicians. We've been advised that on March 21st, the results of the Canadian Residency Matching Service, acronym is CARMS, match day, left in Ontario 108 unfilled positions. So we really have some challenges. Dr. David Barber, who chairs the section on general and family practice with the Ontario Medical Association, said that primary care has often been shown in research studies to be the most important factor when it comes to people leading healthier and longer lives. And while the federal government is striking deals with provinces and pledging billions of dollars to help solve Canada's family doctor shortage, experts say it's not enough to address the situation of patients with a primary physician. He noted that hospitals tend to run the show, and that's where the money goes. He stated that other wealthy countries are spending 50% more on primary care than we are. The committee is firing up an engagement task force in April. As we work to improve the situation in our area, we will fight the uphill battle as best we can. Second committee is the Aurelia and Area Chamber of Commerce. I attended the launch for what was called the Fuel Innovation, formerly known as the Innovation Collective at Lakehead University, as part of a council event. Fuel Innovation was approved for a 3-year pilot in February of 2023. It's managed by Aurelia's Business Development, Tourism, and Modernization Division and partners with Georgian College, Aurelia Community Development Corporation, Lakehead, and the County of Simcoe. That is, the services are available to us. Its goal is to streamline processes to support and make it easier and more accessible for local and regional entrepreneurs to participate in and grow their business through the innovation economy. It will provide several services, including grant writing, various informational workshops, advisory services, and corporate innovation planning. I will be working, I think, with Lori and her team to see how we can promote this venture on our website. I attended the Chamber's breakfast with the Mayor of Aurelia last week. He did a wonderful job. He's a great speaker, and I was quite impressed with the way he fielded questions for about 40 minutes. It was well attended. The Mayor gave an excellent update on economic initiatives and answered questions. He was asked about annexation, and in his view, that matter will come to the fore this fall and early winter again. So there you go. We have been asked to consider how we can do the same thing for Severn. The current proposal is to have what is called a leaders' lunch with the mayors of Severn, Oro-Medonte, Romera, and the chief of the Romera First Nation to speak to economic initiatives. The Chamber wants to be highly involved in the organization of this event. I have spoken to the mayor on this, and he is most interested in pursuing this. It will help us launch our economic strategy and business inventory information. I will be arranging a meeting. It'll be Zoom with the mayor and the CAO and President Scott Walker of the Chamber, Executive Director Alan Fontaine, to see how next steps can work out. So I think that's a pretty exciting economic opportunity for us. There is also a new app that's being released by the Chamber where we have the opportunity to profile Severn Township in a brand new way. It starts out April 1st. I've talked to Tracy, our communications officer, and she is going to pursue discussions with that with other people that are involved, I think, in the CDC. Finally, my fun committee, Otis Park, video dance, April 27th. I want to point out, this is interesting because this came up at the Chamber of Commerce meeting. Apparently dances are the way to raise money these days. People from all age groups are going to these things. I don't know whether this is post-COVID something, but the people are raising not only for that, like they're promoting it in Aurelia, they're looking at doing an event where they have local bands and artists, which again supports our strategy. But you often they'll just use a DJ, and between ticket sales, alcohol sales, and draws, they are bringing in a pile of money with dances. So people are in the mood to dance out there right now, and something you might want to think about. All people. So anyway, video dance 27th for the ladies. I've mentioned this before. Dirty Bingo on April 18th. It's $60 for dinner and a show. Apparently, it's quite intriguing. I have encouraged my wife and at least one of my daughters to go, and I can't see how this can be a bad thing for the guys either. So have fun if you want to go to that. Finally, there is a charity dance May 25th. This is a fundraiser to buy bicycles for kids whose parents need a helping hand. So the idea there is anything over expenses will be donated to local charities. And again, we're hoping to get perhaps our fire department to, on the day the bikes are awarded, to help get the kids seated on these things, do the kind of, roll them into a river or whatever you do with kids the first time they're on a bike. And I think it's a great initiative. Thank you. That's my report.
Thank you. I'm just going to finish up the ward updates before we move to the deputy and the mayor, if that's okay. So in Ward 4, we are having our 3rd annual Easter Bunny Egg Hunt and Family event on Saturday, and expecting to have another 100 or so families participate again in this free event. So always a highlight. March 7th, I attended the Severn Sound Environmental Association meeting in Midland with some members of council, and it was a really worthwhile evening. And I would encourage folks to go to their event in Elmville coming up to really I got a solid understanding of the work they do, and together with the 7 other municipalities that were at the meeting, and by us funding this organization as a budget initiative, we really do get the science and environmental expertise that we pay for collectively to manage our waterways and environment. On March 20th, I attended again with other members the open house that we had last week for the proposed tree conservation bylaw. That was a great opportunity to speak with residents. And the committee that I represent is the Ontario Public Library. And as a Severn resident, I am so happy to be able to have a library card and full privileges there, as every Severn resident does. For statistics, 1,457 Severn residents are members. And in February, there were 3,274 checkouts and renewals by Severn residents of books at the library. So really good usable opportunity. They also have a number of free events that I would encourage people to take. Lots of ones coming up in April. I'll just name a few. There's a great introduction to online banking for newcomers and seniors. If you know of anyone who would benefit from attending, I'm attending a grant writing 101 workshop on April 10th from noon to 1 p.m. There's a floral wreath, decluttering your home, and bookbinding for beginners. As well as many others. So at their March Board of Directors meeting, we begun updating the library policies and began with the first 4, which were intellectual freedom statements, mission statements, statement of values, and vision. Okay, and I think that's it. So over to you. Let's go to Mayor Burkett, please.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I will speak to one item from the county, and I guess the Deputy Mayor can speak to the other one. They're installing 3 new charging stations. They got funding from RTO 7, half funding, so 3 are going to cost $140,000, so the county will get 70 back, and one of them is going in Muskoka. The Coochington Conservancy, I think all of us were there. There was probably more than 250 people there. They're now up to almost 13,000 acres, which is remarkable. That'll be protected forever for all of us to use. Just want to say that I think the county's at 33,000 acres, which is also unbelievable. It started at the turn of the century. When you think about almost 43,000 acres in our area that will be protected for everyone to use for future generations. I was at the Aurelia Fish and Game dinner last week, and they couldn't thank me enough for the $500 that we gave to them. But there was a speaker there, and I think I may have him come to council to speak. They've been in existence for 77 years, and it's amazing what this sanctuary does to not only help protect what they have, but educate our kids and our residents how to protect the environment. So I may have them come and do a presentation at council, because I found it quite remarkable from what the speaker told me. And those were my comments, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Cox.
First of all, there's the grant, the county grant program, and I just got to make it bigger. The Coldwater Mill Foundation received $6,300. The Muskoka Events Committee received $804, and the Muskoka Art Club received $3,156 for their statue. So it's always good to apply for those grants. They had $400,000 and they had over $670,000 asked for. So they brought them down a lot, and then they moved ones around where they had surplus money. So that's always a good thing. We had a interesting agenda item yesterday at the county, and I've talked to the treasurer about it, about tax ratios. And I want to see maybe if he could bring forward some of that, because MPAC is, from what I gathered, just Peter Freeze said that they're looking at coming back, but they haven't said when. And Lynn Dolan and Trevor are both on the AMO board, and they said, oh, we're pushing for it. And then Andrew, our treasurer, said, well, now they're not going to do anything until 28. So we're kind of thinking that possibly it has something to do with election years. And because right now is a really good time. Peter said that things were keeling out for us, and if we were going to do anything, this would be the time. Anyway, I do send the Simcoe County highlights out, and I sent out the forestry report and the homeless report and the blue bin report. My one committee I'm on is library, and we didn't have a meeting. We had an author, Terry Fallis, and if you're ever going to get a book, he is an excellent author. He's Canadian. He lives in Toronto, and he's written about 6 or 7 books. Our library in the last month has had like 8 Canadian authors come and speak at the library, and he said to us, he said, this Terry Fallis said, I had to speak at all the libraries, each branch library in Toronto, and he said, if I add them all together, and there's 30 of them, he said, I would not have had as many people that I had in the Coldwater Library. So, because there must have been 35 of us there, and a lot of people, and then Georgian Bay Books came down to sell his books for him. So he's an excellent author. The other one, the mayor and I went to the Legion on Sunday because they have a public speaking. They still have a public speaking contest. And I was really intrigued by it because sometimes things get sort of, you just wander and do things. These people are very specific about the rules, and this is how it works, and you speak here and you win and you move on to there. And the kids were all excellent. They're very keen, the parents were good. And I also heard from the Legion that April 1st is the 100th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Air Force, and that if you can, fly a flag. I have my dad's flag, the Royal Canadian Air Force flag, or just have a blue light on. But that is trying to remember us all, to remember our veterans. And that's, an important thing for us. And when you especially look at this day and age with everything that's going on, you think about the fact that those people, and I watched a whole thing on the History Channel, like they were out in the cold and they're bombing and they're doing it all for us. So we can all have freedom. So I really think it's an important thing. And that's about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Over to the CEO for updates, please.
Thank you. Staff are really excited that we are making big strides towards Council's goal of improved customer service. So last week we launched our new phone system, which comes through our computers. So wherever we are working, it just rings at our desk. So that's a big change for us. It's taken me a while to get used to it in the office because you'll hear the sound of silence. So what you always heard was the phones ringing like crazy, but now people are wearing their earbuds and it's eerily silent. So that's going to take some time to get used to. And there's a few bugs, no doubt. We're working through the kinks, but I think it's going to be a good solution for all. So it helps with our remote or work anywhere policy, so that it doesn't matter where you are, your phone rings right at your computer. So that's awesome. We have gone live with the financial components of TownSuite. And again, there's bugs, as there always is with new systems, but staff are working very hard to go through them. And that will set the stage to do some of the enhancements that we want to do. In the next few months, we'll be launching the customer service portal. There's kind of 2 components of that. One is a portal where you'll be able to log in and see your bills and different things. Modern progressive ways that we've been a bit behind on. And the other is I don't want to call it customer complaint service request modules that will be much more automated. So baby steps, and it's been a lot of work to get to the base level, but we're at the base level now and starting to build some enhancements. So that's it for me today. That's a lot.
Okay. Thank you very much. Agenda item J, closed session. We don't have one today, so we're moving on to agenda item K, Corporate Service Committee meeting adjournment. Madam Clerk, may I have a motion, please?
Motion be that the meeting be adjourned at 11:35 a.m.
Thank you, everyone. Happy Easter.